We have a great program for you tonight. It has been put together by an amazing committee of people that are part of our organization. I wanted to tell you a little bit about what we do if you're not really familiar. So our mission is to honor God by learning and living Latter-day Saint principles of creation care. And we do that by convening diverse groups of people to work on initiatives of our stewardship around the world. We do that by providing resources that have really helped those who are of the faith but want to learn more about this connection between the earth, the environment, and our relationship to it, and our Father in Heaven's relationship to it, our Heavenly Parents' responsibility that they've given to us to care for it. And we also try to tell the amazing stories of stewards around the world. And you're going to hear some of those stories today, and we're really grateful to have them here to be told. And we're also going to be bestowing an award on someone who we think reflects those principles of our stewardship in action. So it's going to be a wonderful program. We'll first start by inviting our recent intern, Brooke Poligo, who is at Timpview and is graduating soon. We really appreciate all the work that she did for us over the past 6 months or so. And she's going to give an opening prayer for us. We are a faith-based organization, and we do believe in the power of prayer, so we'll be bookending this meeting, of course, with those. And Brooke, we'd love to come and hear from you. Thank you.
Dearly Father, we are so grateful that we were able to gather here today, and we're so grateful for all the beautiful autumn leaves that surround us. Please bless that we will be able to feel the Spirit with today and feel your love for the earth and all of us. Please bless anyone who needs it, who may be struggling here today, and surround them with your love. And I say these things in Jesus Christ, amen.
So, as I said, Brooke interned with us, and we are largely a volunteer-led organization. We only have one paid staff that helps run things. Her name is Chloe Mills. She's amazing. We'll talk more about her later. And this group of volunteers, as I said, a global one, we have local chapters around the world who are people that they have critical mass in an area and in geography. They're of like minds. They want to get together and figure out how they can better live principles of our stewardship, and they have all different ways of doing that. And one of the culminating things we like to do, taking the intelligence from all of our local volunteers and thinking about what's in the culture, what's in the zeitgeist of LDS or stewardship, and it culminates in this fall forum meeting every year. And I am very, very pleased to bring up Lisa Aedo, who is the chair of our fall forum planning committee this year. She's going to introduce the theme to us, the motivations behind the theme of the fall forum, and also introduce our wonderful speakers for us. So thanks, Lisa.
Good evening, brothers and sisters, Earth Stewards. The question has been asked, what is the worth of a soul? In the 21st century, we may well ask, what is the worth of this planet? As we consider the things we wanted to do for Fall Forum this year, and a selection of the theme, we considered the mission and vision of Latter-day Saint Earth Stewardship, as well as the threads of concern and importance shared with all living things in this earth. We consider the arts and all that this earth provides and inspires, and in the end, Chloe, Allison, and I thought that this beautiful world covered everything. And we provided ample material for artists to participate with the inspired artwork under this theme. So a shout out to all who have contributed. And then we considered the guest speakers. And our thinking turned out to consider the native populations of this earth. It often seems that their voices don't carry in the din of technology and frenetic lifestyles. Yet, they are the ones who have the closest relationship with the natural world. And so, we are very grateful to have with us today Elder Larry Ickohawk, a representative of the Pawnee Nation, and former Attorney General of the state of Idaho, and currently working under our Governor Cox in representing 8 tribes in the state of Utah, correct? And we also have Sister Evvy Trujillo. She is of the Waterfox clan of the Hopi Nation, a mother of 8, and a farmer and artist. We'll be happy to hear from Sister Evvy Trujillo, and then our keynote speaker will be Elder Larry Ickohawk.
Good evening to you all. I'm going to introduce myself in my native language, and I want you to hear it. And this is how our language is. Is ascoli, sosom sinum bel eki, ne danakvensi yan matsiwa, bahan matsiwa, Evvy Trujillo yan matsiwa, ne iswanwa, ne mun kapi kita. What I said is thank you for all of you people to come this evening. My Hopi name is Rainbow. My given name is Evvy Trujillo. I am of the Water Fox clan. I live in Munkapi. That's where my house is. Who I brought today is my daughter. She is the youngest of my daughters. And what she is wearing is our traditional outfit. The young girls that aren't married are dressed as this. She has her black manta on, her belt, the necklace, her jewelry, and then her hair in the little buns on each side. She wears traditional moccasins.
Ne Molly Trujillo yan bahan matiwa ne zihapnim but bivahitnim yan Hopi matiwa ne iswungwa. My white name is Molly Trujillo, and then my Hopi names are Zihapnim and Bivahipnim, and I come from the Water Coyote clan.
Thank you. What I want to tell you is that I am a mother of 8 kids. I am a farmer. I am a basket maker. I am a pottery maker. All of these things that I have learned was given to me from my grandmother, my grandfather, and my aunt. When I learned to become a farmer, that was from my grandfather. He would gather us up and take us to the fields. He would tell us to go there because Mother Earth was to take care of. If we took care of Mother Earth would take care of us. We were taught how to farm as little kids, so that has been embedded in me. We were taught to be grateful. We were taught to be humble, kind, show love, and help one another. One of the stories they tell us is when we emerged from the Grand Canyon here to this fourth world, we were told that we would come and that we were to be given seeds and that we were to take care of Mother Earth because she is our matriarch. She carries all the seeds. And so with that, that's where my grandpa's teachings were, to take care of your farm. And our farm was not only just farming. It was our food storage. It was to help out the people in our village. And if somebody wanted to start farming, we were there to help them and give them the seeds. All my seeds are heirloom seeds that were handed down to me from way back when. When I go out into Mother Nature, one day my aunt was sitting there with me and she told me, "What are you going to do?" And I really didn't have an answer for that. And she goes, "You know, my nickname is Beanie. They all call me Beanie." She goes, "You know what, Beanie? You need to look around you. There are so many things out there. Go walk around. Use your legs. There's plenty of things out there. You don't need a car to go drive. Go out there and look and see what you can find." So I did. And I kind of think of that today because that gave me the time to be with Mother Earth, to appreciate what's growing out there, to get materials for my baskets, my clay. And I didn't have to pay for it. But as being a Hopi, when we go gather, we don't just go and gather. We leave something in its place to give thanks to Mother Earth for having that material there. And so that's how I would do. I'd always leave something in its place when I would bring something home. When I went out to get my natural clay, I'd leave food, Hopi traditional food there. And of course, we were taught to pray. Pray that the plants will never go. Pray to whatever you're picking from Mother Earth, that it will be beautiful. Everything that I make, my baskets, my pottery, they're not just that. Those I consider my kids. You know, that's what I think. And when I have to make my living and having to sell them or give them away as gifts, I talk to them. I say, bring somebody joy. Replace, bring happiness. Bring something positive. So when I go out and pick stuff, I'm always so grateful, so blessed. And yes, it gives me that time with Mother Nature to where I don't need a car. My grandma was the plaque maker, not knowing as a little girl that she was making plaques, because they didn't do it in front of us. But later in life, when I started picking the rabbit bush tree and starting to make plaques, it was a lot of trial and error, but I stuck with it. And I would have dreams to guide me. We are taught as Hopis, when you wake up in the morning, you say your prayers. When you eat, you say your prayers. Always be grateful, be thankful. So I've been learning that, and I teach that to my kids. And so I really respect Mother Earth. I will go out and pick up trash where I see trash. If I see my kids drop something, I tell them, pick it up. We need to clean up. My kids have gone and cleaned other people's yards because of the mess. So Mother Earth was also told to us, you take care of Mother Earth and Mother Earth will take care of you. Another thing that was told to us is that if we didn't take care of Mother Earth, if we didn't show compassion, if we didn't show love, if we didn't show respect, we would have natural disasters. Things would come upon us. So it is very vital to take care of Mother Earth, is how I was taught. I am so blessed to be here with each and every one of you. I have met some new brothers and sisters. You all are my brothers and sisters. And I'm very grateful for that. I haven't been here only once to Utah. Beautiful. It is so beautiful for me. And I'm very grateful for this opportunity to be here, to share my culture with you. And with that being said, thank you.
Well, brothers and sisters, it's an honor for me to be here to participate in this LDS Earth Stewardship event. And I think you've just heard from Evvy and Molly the very best words that you could hear if the emphasis this evening is on the Native values when it comes to our stewardship responsibilities to take care of Mother Earth and all the resources that we have been blessed with. The topic of my presentation is wise stewardship of a sacred land. I was asked to give the Native American perspective. I think you just heard it beautifully. I feel like I ought to just sit down right now and go with what we've already heard. My comments are not going to sound like a general authority presentation. It's not about doctrine. I was asked to talk about the Native American perspective. And this topic is vitally important because of the circumstances we live in today. And it will become even more compelling as time goes on. With regard to Native American perspective, I want to comment about terms that you'll hear me mention. And one would be indigenous, which seems to be like the modern day word that we use to express about the original inhabitants of this land. But I'll also, talk, as my title suggests, about Native Americans, and even using the word Indian. I've been in groups where if you say Indian, some people take offense to that in these modern days and say you should use the word indigenous. But I do not pretend to speak for all Native Americans or indigenous people on this topic. I don't know if you know, but there are 574 federally recognized tribes within the borders of the United States. So how could I possibly speak for all of them? But I am in a position to know something about Native Americans' perspectives, lands and natural resources, because I am a member of one of those 574 federally recognized tribes, the Pawnee Nation. I also have spent a lifetime of service as a tribal lawyer. I represented the largest Indian tribe in the state of Idaho for 9 years. That's the Shoshone and Bannock tribes located on the Fort Hall Indian Reservation. It's located between Pocatello and Blackfoot and American Falls. 550,000 acres of lands, and I was their senior general counsel for 9 years, which was a wonderful experience for me to be able to apply my law school education to defend their rights and to improve the quality of life within their community. I also taught federal Indian law 23 times. I was a law professor at the J. Reuben Clark Law School on the Brigham Young University campus, and I taught there for 15 years. Probably when it comes to Native American perspective and some knowledge about that, I would mention that I served as the Assistant Secretary for Indian Affairs in the United States Department of Interior. That is the highest ranking official in the United States government with full-time responsibility for Indian affairs. That was a political appointment in the Obama administration. In that capacity, I had authority over the Bureau of Indian Affairs and the Bureau of Indian Education. It was my responsibility and duty to exercise the trust responsibility of the United States to those 500, at that time, 565 federally recognized tribes. That took me into 47 states within 3 years visiting tribal communities. That was amazing to be able to see in close proximity Indian country of the United States. And I cherish that opportunity that I had to give service. I was actually there in the Department of Interior when I received the call from the First Presidency of the church to serve as a General Authority 70. I have to admit to you, I was a bit surprised that the Lord would call me away from that position of responsibility in the United States government over Indian affairs. But I've always tried to be on the Lord's errand, and of course I accepted that and had to walk away from that position as Assistant Secretary for Indian Affairs. After completing my service as a General Authority 70, in 2018, I was about to be released from full-time service when I received a call from then the governor of the state of Utah, Governor Herbert. And he called me up to the Capitol building, and in the meeting was the Attorney General for the state of Utah. And I didn't know what the meeting was about when I went there, but they sat down and they said to me, "We have made mistakes in our relationships with the 8 federally recognized tribes in the state of Utah. We need to do better. And we think you're the one that could help us to do that." I didn't have any idea that that's what they wanted me to do, but I accepted that responsibility. So for the past 6 years, I have served as special legal counsel and advisor to the governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general for the state of Utah for Indian affairs. To set the stage for my comments this evening, I want to share a quote from D.H. Lawrence. "No matter which continent your ancestors came from, if you are an American, you are part Indian in your roots. The American Indian will never control this continent again, but he will forever haunt it." There have been dark chapters in American history in how Native people in this country have been treated. If we do not learn to be wise stewards of the land, water, animals, plants, and our atmosphere, there will be even greater haunting. As I think about that, I think about the Book of Mormon, how it says that this is a land of promise, a choice land above all lands. It was, of course, inhabited by indigenous people. They are the descendants of the people of the Book of Mormon. I consider myself to be among them. Echo Hawk. That is the name given to my great-grandfather, a Pawnee Indian born in 1854 in what we now call Nebraska. At that time, Pawnee people didn't have first and last names like we have today. An infant would be given a name upon birth, but as they moved into their young adult years, they had to earn a name, and it would be the elders of the tribe that would watch them and then would give them the name. So there is a story behind the name Echo Hawk. Among the Pawnee, the hawk is a symbol of bravery. My great-grandfather in his young adult years was a protector of his people. The people in the village recognized that, his deeds and acts of bravery. But the elders of the tribe also noticed that he was a very quiet man. He did not speak of his own deeds of bravery. But the elders of the tribe noticed that as The people in the village spoke of his deeds of bravery. It was like an echo. They would hear the same words from one side of the village to the other about his deeds of bravery. So they said, we will call him Echo Hawk, the hawk whose deeds are echoed. They didn't speak English. So his name was Kitu Wakitsu Te Wakaha, which translated is Echo Hawk. I'm very proud of that name. I'm very proud of that heritage. And I'm very proud of the values that I was raised with, which I will speak of tonight. For Native Americans, the earth is sacred. The Pawnee account of the creation is of an ancient people emerging from darkness into a lighted world. A holy place. It is not so much an explanation of the earth's beginnings as it is an expression of the constant creative outpouring of the Great Spirit. Creation is not what happened thousands of years ago. It is what is happening right here and now in this holy place. For many tribes, the center of its communal existence is a sacred mountain, a river, a plant, or an animal. There is diversity from one tribe to another because of the character of their land, their plants, and their animals. Examples of this would be the Hopi, that are identified with the rain dance because they live in an arid desert, now called Arizona. Another example is the coastal natives in the Northwest. They have a spiritual nexus with the magnificent salmon that have sustained their people for many generations. The Pawnee found the Great Spirit in the seed of their corn, in the stars of the sky, and in the great bison herds that roam the plains of Nebraska. When it became important to destroy Indian tribes, the federal government knew instinctively that the key was to break each tribe's connection to the land. The water, the plants, and the animals. The process of breaking the Indians' tie to the land began with confinement to a reservation. Between 1833 and 1874, the Pawnee people were forced to cede 23 million acres of their Aboriginal homeland, leaving them with just 1/100th of what had once been theirs. In the winter of 1874, my great-grandfather Echo Hawk and the members of the Pawnee Nation were forcibly removed from their sacred homelands in what we now call Nebraska. Along the Platte, Republican, and Loup rivers, they were forced to march several hundred miles south to a small reservation near the Cimarron River in the Oklahoma Indian Territory, where they were confined to a small reservation. I note that today in the state of Oklahoma there are 39 tribes. Those are not all indigenous people that had that as their homeland. They were removed from what is now the state of New York, the Seneca people, the Modoc from California, the Apache from Arizona and New Mexico, the Pawnee from Nebraska. The federal government was moving them to what they called a permanent Indian homeland in Oklahoma and taking their lands. The Pawnee, like many other tribes, journeyed on a trail of tears. The tears were not from the bitter cold and the freezing wind in the winter of 1874. They were accustomed to hard and cold winter weather. No, their tears shed from the Platte River to the Cimarron River were for the loss of their sacred homeland. No longer were the Pawnee people free to visit ancestral burial sites, to seek spiritual visions on the high grassy plains as their ancestors had done for many generations, or to pursue the great buffalo herds that had sustained their people. Within a very short period of time, one of the most free, independent, and self-sustaining people on the face of the earth became one of the most dependent people in the entire world. Forced to subsist off rations handed out by federal agents. Several years ago, I visited the burial site of Echo Hawk, my great-grandfather, located on the reservation in Oklahoma. I pondered on the pain he experienced from losing his freedom, his homeland, and his way of life. He was 19 years old when he was confined to that reservation in Oklahoma. The pain was not confined to one generation. The Pawnee people continued to suffer the effects of dependency in future generations. The white Americans' relation to the land, water, and natural resources at that time has been summed up in two words: manifest destiny, to tame the wild lands from the Atlantic to the Pacific. However, to the indigenous people, those lands were not wild. They were bountiful. The high mountains, the deep canyons, the great rivers, and all the plants and animals were an outpouring of the creativity and generosity of the Great Spirit. Chief Luther Standing Bear of the Lakota Sioux said it best, quote, "We did not think of the great open plains, the beautiful rolling hills, the winding streams with tangled growth as wild. Only to the white man was nature a wilderness, and only to him was the land infested with wild animals and savage people. To us, it was tame. The earth was bountiful, and we were surrounded with the blessings of the great mystery. When the very animals of the forest and the fields began to flee from the approach of the settlers, then it was for us that the Wild West began." End quote. Today, the Wild West is in danger of becoming an amusement park replica of its former self. Anything truly wild, like wilderness, free-flowing rivers, and the salmon, is today approaching extinction. As I served as Attorney General for the state of Idaho, one evening I was standing next to Redfish Lake, located near the Sawtooth Mountains. I was there at a vigil where we were waiting to see if the last of the sockeye salmon coming from the Pacific Ocean up the Columbia River into the Salmon River drainage would ever reach that beautiful Redfish Lake. The lake got its name, Redfish, because at one time there were tens of thousands of these red salmon in their spawning that would color the lake. But that night we weren't even sure if one of those salmon would return because of 14 dams built on the Columbia River. Gradually, the great runs of the sockeye salmon were being destroyed year by year. That is not the only species, of course, of animals that are endangered today. The Indian was America's first endangered species. The Pawnee were estimated to number somewhere between 12,000 and 20,000 upon first contact with non-Indian explorers. In 1833, the Pawnee people began dwindling in numbers. Some of the losses came from warfare, many from diseases brought by the settlers that were coming from European nations. But many of those losses came as a result of the destruction of their life-sustaining habitat. The exception, of course, was the bison, brought to the verge of extinction by direct slaughter. From 1872 to 1874, a 2-year period, more than 7 million bison were killed by white hunters for their hides and pursuant to a policy of the United States to destroy the food sources of Indian tribes in an effort to conquer them. The carcasses were left to rot on the Great Plains. I don't know how many of you remember the award-winning movie Dances with Wolves. In 1990 released, they had a segment of that famous movie that displayed what happened when those bison herds were slaughtered and just left upon the grounds. With the great herds gone, the tribes struggled to survive. By the turn of the century, after relocation into the Oklahoma Indian Territory, the Pawnee did not number 20,000. They did not number 15,000, not 12,000 or 10,000. They did not number 1,000. There were less than 700 Pawnee people remaining. Echo Hawk. Echo Hawk was a survivor. We live in a throwaway society. We talk about recycling and run programs to reuse a few percent of our enormous waste. The American Indian knew there was no way to which things could be thrown. The bison hunters who left those carcasses to rot were vile, sacrilegious men, and to the Indians who wasted nothing. Nearly all of the parts of the bison were used for something by the native people. Meat sustained their lives. The hide served as a covering for their lodges. Sacks for storage and carrying, bedding covers, clothing, saddles, lariats, and halters. The sinew made strings for bows, twine, and thread. The hooves of the bison were used for mallets. Bones were used for scrapers and chisels. The fat was used to make paint. Even the animals' bladders were used for water bags on the annual treks to pursue the bison. In 1965, Stuart Udall asked, and I quote, "Is a society a success if it creates conditions that impair the finest minds and make a wasteland of its finest landscapes? What does material abundance avail if we create an environment in which our highest and most specifically human attributes cannot be fulfilled?" He summed up the challenge of our times. History tells us that earlier civilizations have declined because they did not learn to live in harmony with the land. Our successes in space and our triumphs of technology hold a hidden danger. As modern man increasingly abrogates to himself dominion over the physical environment, there is a risk that his false pride will cause him to take the resources of the earth for granted and to lose all reverence for the land. America today stands poised on a pinnacle of wealth and power, yet we live in a land of vanishing beauty, of increasing ugliness, of shrinking open space, and of an overall environment that is diminished daily by pollution, noise, and blight. Thus, in brief, is the quiet conservation crisis. End quote. I have spoken today of the Native American values I was raised with, but I'm a realist. I understand full well that the hands of time do not turn in reverse. I understand and know that we must use land and other natural resources to sustain us. But I believe that in the Native Americans' desire to respect the land, water, plants, and animals, and to live in harmony with nature. In those values are lessons for all of us to know. We have a responsibility to be wise stewards of a sacred land and other natural resources entrusted to us. In 1990, I decided to run for the office of Attorney General in the state of Idaho. I knew I faced a difficult challenge. Idaho was the most Republican state in the United States, and I was running as a Democrat. I felt like an endangered species. There had not been a Democrat elected to the office of Attorney General in 20 years. There had been no one in my county in 36 years elected to any statewide office. And as I started that campaign, the news media, in doing some research, disclosed that in all the history of the United States, there had never been a Native American elected to any statewide, state constitutional office, such as governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, or attorney general. But somehow, I won. It was a miracle. I think because of that, that history, 2 years later in 1992, I was invited to be a principal speaker on the final night of the National Democratic Convention held in New York City in Madison Square Garden. I was given 8 minutes to speak. Of course, I gave careful thought about what I should say. I chose to make a Native American concept of governance the center of my speech. In college, I had learned about a principle followed by the 6 nations of the Iroquois Confederacy. It is known as the 7th generation. The people of the 6th nation of the Iroquois said, "In our way of life, with every decision we make, we always keep in mind 7 generations ahead of us, those yet to be born. Our responsibility is to leave behind us a world that is better than the one we live in today." As we walk upon the earth, we plant our feet carefully because we see the faces of the future generations looking up at us from beneath the ground, and we must never forget them. Our responsibility is to leave for them something better than what we have today. It would be well for us to heed this principle of governance when it comes to using and managing our natural resources today. They must be carefully managed to yield the benefits to our communities, but we have a responsibility to manage the land and all natural resources, not just for ourselves today. We have a responsibility to preserve them for future generations, for our children, our grandchildren, and for all of our future posterity. We live close to nature here in Utah. So close, we are in danger of taking it for granted. We cannot afford to let that happen. For history has taught us that species can be destroyed, mountains can be leveled, forests can be clear-cut, and rivers can be dried up. We have the power to destroy nature. It is our fundamental responsibility to ourselves, to our children, and to 7 generations ahead of us to make sure that we exercise that power with extreme care. As we confront the pressing and complex issues of this new millennium, we must be wise stewards of our land, water, and all natural resources. But the question is, will we be wise stewards of our land and resources? I address that question and close with a story of 2 Indian boys and a wise tribal elder. The boys wanted to show how smart they were. They had a plan to prove they were smarter than this wise tribal elder. So they caught a bird, and one of the boys held the bird in his hands. They would ask the tribal elder if the bird was alive or dead. If the elder said the bird was alive, the boy holding the bird would crush it until it died, and then he would open his hands and say he was dead. If the elder said the bird was dead, he would simply open his hands and the bird would fly away. So the boy approached the tribal elder with the bird in his hands, and he said, "Old man, I have a bird in my hand. Is it alive or is it dead?" The wise tribal elder took his time and thoughtfully and carefully, he finally said, "Young men, the answer to your question is in your hands." And so it is with us that the answer to that question about whether we will be responsible in managing our precious lands and natural resources in this choice land that we inhabit, the answer is in our hands. Thank you.
Wow. I think we have a lot to think about and a lot to do. And I don't know quite what the answer to what I'm going to do is yet. And I could think of no better story to arouse my faculties, for lack of a better term, than that you shared at the end there, Elder Echo Hawk. Thank you. The answer really is in our hands. There are so many ways that we can be better stewards. It might be as simple as the way that you live within your families as an individual. Do you care for your household and for the land that your household is a part of in a way that's respectful to creation? Are you a politically engaged citizen who wants to try and push policy that is better saying and answering alive? to that question? Are you someone who wants to be involved in civic organizations like the ones that you might be able to meet outside or like ours? Are you somebody who feels in your lifestyle, the way that you want to live, how you get to work every day, the way that you use materials, the way that you engage in events like this? Is it your relationships that you have with others? Because I think a lot can be said of human relationships and how those things are related to the way that we treat the land. A big reflection of how we treat each other, as both of our speakers talked about. Evvy, Elder Echo Hawk, we really, really thank you. And I hope that we can really take this and have it carry us through the next year until we get together again and talk about how to continue to forward our stewardship. The couple of things that we want to do to end this meeting is, as members of Latter-day Saint Earth Stewardship, one of our biggest goals, it's our grand vision, if you will, is to make every saint a steward. So everyone who has some sort of identity with this belief system becomes someone who is actively engaged in the act of earth stewardship and in creation care. And it really starts in here and with the individual. And so as part of that, we want to reward and honor individuals who reflect that, putting the principle of earth stewardship into action. And one of the ways that we do that, besides inviting them to come speak, is also honoring people who are not part of our leadership in our organization, but are rather people, maybe they're tangentially involved, maybe they're not members of LDSCS at all, but they are what we deem stewards of the year. This award is something that we like to give out every year, but it was sort of put off track when the pandemic came, and we had not gotten back to putting it back in place. And so we are doing that this year. And what better place to do that than the home university of our most recent Steward of the Year, who is Sarah Bateman. She's head of sustainability here at UVU, and we're very grateful and gave her that award because she reflected this. And we're going to invite her up to give the next Steward of the Year award to this year's recipient. His name is Volker Molthan. He is not here with us today because he lives in Germany. Couldn't make the trek to come here, but he is an incredible person, and we have a video of him accepting this award that we're going to play for you. And Sarah will come up here and read the nomination that was given from his Germany chapter, and talk about him a little bit. And we have a little placeholder award here, and we're going to be sending it to him. But we just want to recognize that as part of the end. So Sarah, would you be so kind as to come up here and give it up for Sarah, who is an incredible steward in her own right. So let's see if this works well. As I get out of here, I will let you.
It's working.
It's working.
I love when it works.
Perfect. Okay, I'll turn it to you.
Okay, thank you. I'll just kind of twist it. I know. I mean, you've been doing great so far tonight. Wow. You really have. You got it nailed. I don't speak German, but I'm going to try my best to pronounce his name as he pronounces it. So as was said, this was submitted by the one who recommended him. So Volker is a trusted and valued community leader and builder. He applies his faith and expert knowledge to increase awareness of Earth stewardship issues. One example is his service as a member of the Scientific Advisory Board of Friends of the Earth Germany, Bund, and as spokesman for Bund's National Working Group on Waste and Natural Resources. With over 650,000 members nationwide and 2,300 local and regional chapters, Bund is one of the largest environmental associations in Germany today. He inspires others with his hands-on, tangible environmental stewardship efforts. His active involvement with butterfly monitoring serves as an example. Volker has been supervising a butterfly monitoring project for 20 years and is also active as the initiative's regional coordinator for the Black Forest region. A member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Volker serves as member of the Council for Church History in the German-speaking countries. So congratulations to Volker Molthan.
He sent us a little video, and we had a chance to talk to Volker a little bit before after we recorded this video to learn his story. And it is quite amazing because all those accolades that you're hearing, it was not always that way. He started as somebody who was, it had nothing to do with his professional life. He was no involvement with organizations like this. He just basically thought one day, maybe I should start caring about issues like this more. And that's when he first started getting involved in citizen science and in the Butterfly Monitoring Project. He then eventually, it became part of his work. They asked him and gave him a new environmental position, sort of being voluntold to do so. And it was the greatest blessing in his life that he said. We're going to hear a little bit more from Volker here now.
Hello, greetings from Germany to America. I am Volker Molthan and I am here at the edge of the Black Forest in southern Germany. I am working with Friends of the Earth in Germany. I am the responsible person, speaker of the working group of waste and raw materials for Friends of the Earth, and I also work since 20 years in butterfly monitoring here in Germany. In Germany we have a very small group of Latter-day Saints Earth Stewardship, and I realized that every one of us would be worthy and qualified to receive this award. Therefore, I'm very grateful to have been nominated for this award, and I extend this award also in behalf of all the other colleagues in Latter-day Saints Earth Stewardship here in Germany. We are very grateful to have been selected, and it will give us an impetus and a motivation to continue our work for sustainability and protection of the environment. We wish you also very much success on your meetings and on the work that you are doing in America. It is very important, and since the beginning of our church, we have always said that since Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, humankind should be stewards of the earth. And when we prepare for the second coming of Jesus Christ, we should give Jesus Christ an earth which is worthy of him, and so therefore we work for it so that this earth will be qualified, be good, and that all the damages that we as mankind is doing may be mitigated and may be remediated. I wish you all the best for your meeting and greet you to America and say hello and bye-bye.
Dankeschön, Volker. And one of the things he said in our meeting as well is, I don't really believe the concept that I've heard from some folks in Latter-day Saint culture saying, well, the second coming is just going to happen, so why do anything to care for the earth? He said, I believe it's actually the opposite of that. It wouldn't come unless we were preparing the earth for it to happen. I thought that was incredible and touching. And so rather than make it, as was said, an amusement park representation of its past, let's make creation be part of now. And thank you so much for coming. And we want to encourage you to be around, take some refreshments that are outside. There are some organizations that are partner organizations we thank for being here. The Mormon Women for Ethical Government, Conserve Utah Valley, and Grow the Flow, which are all local organizations engaged in all sorts of civic matters that involve the environment and also political engagement, an important thing around this time, right? Let's continue the conversation. Thank you all for being here. We're going to invite Brayman Leak, who's the Sustainability Coordinator at BYU, to give a prayer and bless the refreshments for us, and we will adjourn.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we're grateful for this meeting tonight, and we're grateful for the messages we've heard. We're grateful for our role as stewards and for thy blessings and thy help in our lives as we work to protect and care for the earth and to care and love for one another. We're grateful for all those who have worked so hard to put this gathering together and to lead its efforts throughout the year. I'm grateful for the speakers that have blessed us tonight with their perspectives from the Hopi and Pawnee communities. We're grateful for the artists who have shared their creative works with us. And we ask a blessing on those of us in this room tonight. We might continue to be inspired and led and guided by thy hand, that we might work together and strengthen our community of stewards. We ask a blessing on the refreshments. Bless us as we travel home. And we are grateful for thy Son and for this beautiful creation, for this beautiful world that we live in. We say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
I'm sorry, one more thing I forgot. This is the last thing, I promise. This event, as was said, there was a lot of planning that went into this event. And I would be remiss if we didn't thank the people that made it happen. So Allison, Lisa, Chloe, if you can all stand. This is our Fall Forum Planning Committee. Thank you for making this year's Fall Forum happen. And Chloe Mills, please stay standing. Come here, please. Chloe, as I said, is our one paid staff member that we have at LDSCS. She originally started as an outreach coordinator, and now she is an everything coordinator. And we would not be where we are at without Chloe and what she does. And I cannot thank you enough for all of your resilience, especially through this last week with shuffling around even at the last minute and venue changes. You did it coolly, calmly, collected, and you were able to still coordinate everything and make this event happen. And so thank you, Chloe. Please, please give it up for her and all she does for our organization. And one last thank you to our speakers, Evvy, Elder Echo Hawk, Molly. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, to the food we go. Thank you all.